So I'm a family physician, and I am a teacher as well. So I teach medical students and medical residents. So when I met you at Nasiha, I kind of heard what you did. I'm glad that those other two people didn't show up for the dinner. So it was great that you and your wife were able to join us. But I didn't get what you were talking about, but I liked the idea of it, right? And that's why I kind of thought, you know what? You're doing some neat things. I want to know how you're doing it and what you're doing. And the fact that you were so inspired to change your career, to change your path, must mean that you really, really believe in this. Because what I didn't see in you was somebody who was looking for a career change. I think what I saw in you was someone who was passionate about something and wanted to really help, right? So it really wasn't the career thing I saw. I saw like, you really believe in this and you think it's useful and you're actually using it to help people in your volunteer work. And I thought that was really awesome. So when I did meet you and I saw it, because I was still kind of a bit skeptical. I'm like, I don't know what he's doing, but he believes in it. So I feel like I need to explore this further to see what exactly it is. And when you came and you did that tiny little exercise, I can't remember which exercise you did with one of our kids at home, I was like, oh my God. And you obviously sold them too, because I have teenagers who normally wouldn't be interested in anything I bring to the table. And my husband, who would totally not be part of that discussion either. But I don't know if you remember, everybody, even my husband who didn't start off at the table, came to the table. The kids were all there, and there was something, I think it was your sincerity and your passion, and then that coupled with a small little sample of, okay, you know what? Why do you think you don't need to know why, but check this out, right? And it was a realization that things happen that are beyond our comprehension and understanding. We don't really need to understand everything. If you can, that's great. If you want to look at the science, that's awesome. But if you just want things to improve, then who cares? Like, who cares what the science behind it is? So the fact that you captivated everyone there was really also very commendable, commendable, right? So then our kids saw you, and I feel like I didn't ask them what they were going to see. Actually, Isa specifically, one of my sons very specifically said, yeah, I'll go see him. And I said, oh, and I'm glad I didn't ask why, because I realized that with NLP, you really don't need to know why, right? And people don't really need to share more than they're willing to share, which is what's really amazing about this, because there are so many people who could benefit from some kind of a better understanding of themselves, but don't want to talk about it because it's painful to talk about it or they feel judged. And this process really allows them to get the help they need to move forward without feeling judgment, which I think is really very unique. That's the part I really, really like. There are some situations I think people would never get help. So this is an option for people who are looking for that. Anyways, he came out and he had this look of just like peace, right? And when you see that in your 15-year-old kid, you're kind of like, wow. And I just said, so how was that? And he said, yeah, good, really good. He's good. He's really good. And I very specifically didn't ask him anything further. I was dying to ask him what the dot was for, but I didn't. He carried his dot and took it home, and I was just like, gosh, I need to know what that dot's about. But I didn't ask. And then I went to see him. He took a little bit longer, which I kind of wasn't surprised. But again, him too. He came back and he was just like I think a weight had been lifted off his shoulder. So I don't know what they talked about. I don't know what the issue was. I didn't ask, but he felt like, something good happened in that room. And then I asked him again, so I'm taking this course, and I asked them both. I said, hey, I'm taking that course. And they both had, I got good vibes which reinforces to me that, you know what, this is not like a short-lived thing, that this is something that I think sticks with you. Lots of people look for coaches to help with athletic performance, or with coaches for, weight loss or things like that. But people don't necessarily look at wellness coaches. And I remember thinking that for a while now that, gosh, I'd love to find someone who could just coach, when the kids were younger, my kids through wellness, because I see the angst that so many kids go through. And often we kind of, as parents of teenagers, wait for things to happen, and we, guide them with anticipatory advice and support and stuff like that. But we kind of wait to see what life throws at them. But we hope that they're going to be resilient enough to come through the other end as intact young adults ready to tackle the world. But we don't really coach them through that. So I'm hoping that this is going to be something that they feel they can turn to themselves, and not feel like this has anything to do with weakness or something that they're not good at, or something that's wrong with them, but as even a form of, you know what, I just want to be better, or I just want to work to my potential. And who helps with that kind of stuff? So that's kind of where I'm hoping that now that they know what can be done in a short, through a short visit, if they come across other areas that they feel they would like some support in, this is going to be an option for them. So I think that's awesome. I'm not sure if I answered your question, but I feel like, really, I think, Mohammed, you're awesome, and I think your mannerisms are awesome. I think that it's really amazing that you share such personal stories, because it makes things authentic. I feel genuineness, and I think everyone in the room feels like a sincerity in what you're offering and how you're offering it. And I think that honestly, it's amazing. I just feel I've taken so many courses and come across many teachers, and you would be right up there with one of the best. And I'm not saying this lightly. Your teaching style is amazing. Your ability to handle questions out of turn is amazing. Your ability to go with the flow is amazing. To accommodate is amazing. To make people feel comfortable. And I think it all comes from a place where you believe in what you're doing, you're authentic, and you're doing this for the right reason.
Thank you.
You know what? It was, I think it was the right time for me to take the course, because I was really intrigued by I think neuroscience. I think it really fascinates me, and it's not something that I am trained in. It's not something we learn a whole lot about. Actually, we don't learn anything about this aspect of it. So I think it really complemented it. First of all, it served me very well. I'm really glad I took it. I can see how I can use some of the knowledge I've gained, but I also see that there's obviously so much more that I need to learn. Did I take it expecting to understand things? Not really. I think I'm at a point in my career where I just look for tools that can help. And I think some of the stuff I learned here are definitely going to be things that I can reach into and see if they'll apply to people that I'm working with.
Cool. That's awesome.
So much. I mean, I think a lot of people would probably wonder why a doctor needs to do this. And I would say that as a doctor, I need to learn everything. So my learning didn't finish in medical school or in residency. I continue to learn all the time, and I hope I keep doing that. So I feel like I met some really neat people, and I learned just a lot from you. I was actually amazed that you spoke and you taught the course for 4 whole days. Your examples were really, like, they were amazing, and they made me really think of applications to, professional. I teach also, right? So some of the stuff that you taught, I kind of thought, I could use this with my students, and I alluded to some of those with you, right? Like the goal setting. We do goal setting in a very different way in medical school and in residency and kind of in life in general. And I really like the model that you taught for goal setting, where identity features so prominently and not just the goal and the strategy. So I think that I was listening to some of the stuff you were teaching, and I thought, okay, this is great, not just for patients, but for students and for colleagues and for myself. And it allowed me also to reevaluate. And I think anything I learn, I always try to apply it, or I'm sure I internalize it and think, okay, how is this going to help me? How is this going to help people I know? And how is this going to help my patients? And if any one of those 3 can benefit, then it's something useful. So it's totally worth doing. But there were almost everything I learned or you talked about, I was able to see applications that are just real applications where I can see benefit.
Cool.
Okay, so I'm going to answer that in a longer way. I think the way you laid it out was brilliant because you layered the right knowledge in the right order so that things made sense. And I think that some of the processes reinforced things you taught earlier. So when I think of what my favorite one is, gosh, they were all so cool. The things that immediately come to mind were the self-mentoring. I think the self-mentoring was brilliant. And that's something that I think can help so many people. People are often looking for external mentors, and when they're stuck in a situation, they don't necessarily see that they're a resource to themselves. And I think it's really empowering for people to remember the times that they made really good calls and that they also got out of it, right? And that people do get out of things. So I think the self-mentoring is awesome. I thought the goal setting was amazing as well. And just probably the most useful thing I learned, and you use it in all of these, is learning resources. And that's a new word that I just never thought of. Like when you first described it, I thought, what the heck, why is that called a resource? But it's brilliant. It's brilliant to call something that you've felt and you really know well a resource, because you can get back to that place and use it as an anchor for other situations that you're in. So learning to do that, I think, was probably the most useful thing, and I'm sure I'm going to be using that on people totally, suspectingly and unsuspectingly as well. When someone is in distress, reminding them about a time, or asking them, forget about, actually, probably the most useful thing I learned is that the person who is the therapist, the practitioner, the physician, whatever, is not the one doing the work. This is really about people's self-discovery. And it's guided self-discovery, which I have never learned. I mean, that's not something I learned about in medical school, right? And that's not something that I really practice, because I find that people come to me asking for help. So they come to see me and say, I'm going through this. What can you do for me? Are there resources for me? And by resources, I mean they want to be referred somewhere, or they want like a program or something. But what I think is really kind of brilliant about this is that it teaches people that they're their biggest resource. And if you really dig deep, that you will discover a lot about yourself that's going to help you. So I would recommend this course and learning more about NLP in general to anybody who works with anybody who's trying to improve their lives, or anyone who does any kind of change work. And I feel like as a family doctor, that's a ton of what I do. So I make recommendations all the time. A lot of people think that people come in to see family doctors and we send them off with prescriptions, but more and more we're realizing that it's not the prescriptions that there's tremendous evidence for some really basic things. It's some of those lifestyle modifications that we need to get people to adopt, and they're hard to do. So learning strategies to help people make the changes we know are good for their health is so, so important. So I think anybody who does any work in any area that requires working with people to make any kind of change, this should be something that they learn about in whatever way they can. Yeah, huge. I feel like a lot of times when you take training like this, you get little, snippets of what's the best way to say this? This training was pretty comprehensive. I feel like I can leave here with some solid tools and strategies. I'm not going to be the best at it, but I think, you know what? That's where practice comes in. I need to go start playing around with some of this stuff, seeing where it fits into what I do. But the training was comprehensive enough that I feel like I'm leaving here with some really great skills and tools.